Hey, gorgeous. Welcome to Season 2 of the Hormone Puzzle Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Kayla Smith, CEO of the Hormone Puzzle Society, a women's health hub for fertility, hormones, and the business of coaching, creator of the Hormone Puzzle Method, an infertility warrior, two-time boy mom, and women's health expert. This podcast is for women struggling with infertility, painful periods, terrible PMS, or really just any symptom of hormone imbalance that they are ready to eliminate for good. Tune in weekly as we interview amazing experts in the fields of women's health, breaking down those hormone walls, nerding out on nutrition, and having way too much fun. Whether you're beginning your journey or you've been struggling for years, we're going to finally help you put those pieces of your hormone puzzle back together so that you can get pregnant and eliminate those pesky symptoms for good. Are you ready? This season is packed with even more expert guests sharing groundbreaking knowledge, giving you that jolt of energy that you so desperately need, sending you lots of virtual hugs, and inspiring you to take your fertility into your own hands and make that baby. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now let's get started on your road to transformation. I am so excited about today's guest, Belinda Kirkpatrick. She is the author of Healthy Hormones and is an expert naturopath and nutritionist with over 15 years of clinical experience. Belinda specializes in women's health and is especially passionate about hormonal health, fertility management, miscarriage prevention, and menopause. Belinda is known for her extensive knowledge of natural and conventional treatment, in addition to her evidence-based approach to integrative healthcare. Belinda is the creator of several online courses, including the 7-Day Nutrition Reset, the 14-Day IVF Support Program, and 5 Weeks to Fertility. These programs have been endorsed by the Senior Fertility Specialist, Associate Professor Dr Gavin Sacks of IVF Australia, and are designed to support all women who are trying to conceive naturally or with IVF. Belinda is featured regularly in television and media and is a regular guest on Channel 7's Daily Edition and has presented as a keynote speaker on a variety of health and wellness topics. Belinda's qualifications include a Master's of Reproductive Health, a Bachelor of Health Science in Naturopathy, an Associate's degree in Clinical Sciences, and an Advanced Diploma of Naturopathy. Belinda is in clinical practice in Sydney, Australia, author of the book Healthy Hormones, creator of the Seed iPhone app, and is the mother of 2 beautiful girls. She loves yoga and meditation and feels like a full-time cook. Listen in as we talk about how to optimize your fertility and nail your fertile window by learning to read your fertile body signs. If you're trying to conceive, this is a show you're gonna want to listen to and take notes. Now, let's welcome Belinda to our show. Hey, Belinda, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am super excited to talk to you today.
Yeah, me too. It'll be fun.
Yes. So tell our audience a little bit more about you, kind of how you started working in women's health and a little more about you.
Yeah, thank you. So I've been a naturopath and a nutritionist for almost 17 years now. I've been saying 15 for so long, and I realised I didn't actually add on any years as the years went by. So I'm really super passionate about women's health, hormones, fertility, pregnancy, IVF support. It's a real passion of mine. I guess how I came into it wasn't so much of my own health difficulties or anything like that. I was studying naturopathy at university. I've always loved natural health and working with people, and I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds like an amazing job. You know, when you finish school and just you don't know what you want to do, and everything sounds amazing. So I didn't start off doing that. I started off doing speech pathology for about a few weeks, and then I was like, oh, it's not for me. went traveling, found out about naturopathy, and in I was. So I actually fell pregnant with my first child, surprise, at university. And so I finished my degree, and then I'd had a second child when I completed my degree. So I guess because I had all this real-time experience of pregnancy as I was learning about all this stuff, you know, I was like a guinea pig on myself. Then my daughters were guinea pigs, sorry kids, or lucky kids really, I guess. You know, so I just got really into that whole kind of women's health and sort of and pregnancy and reproductive health kind of space. So when I completed my degree, I did a lot of my practical training at a fertility clinic, and then years later went on to do my master's degree in reproductive medicine. So I guess in that time, my practice has really kind of gone into, you know, women's health, hormones, sort of fertility, subfertility. I hate calling it infertility unless it's actually infertility, and that's not that common. It's usually just subfertility. It's got to work out the pieces of the puzzle so we can get that resolved. And then, ongoing into, you know, pregnancy. So really sort of from puberty to kind of menopause and beyond is really where my passion lies.
I love that. What an amazing story. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about some fertility issues that you're seeing in your practice.
Yeah. So many things that I think like it's almost like alarming, right? You know, like I'm watching Handmaid's Tale at the moment.
Yes,
love that. But hey, you know, and you're sort of like, wow, like, I mean, gosh, hopefully we'd never get to the point where babies are just so rare. But they just seemed so much harder to get. And I guess I'm seeing a very skewed percentage of the population. And I say that to my clients a lot, you know, like people are falling over and getting pregnant, you know, without taking vitamins, without doing anything. It's not impossible. It's not that you have to do all of these things, but with our, you know, I guess falling fertility rates and issues and women getting pregnant older because they've been doing amazing things in their lives before that or meeting partners later, we're wanting to be doing what we can to optimize not only the chance of falling pregnant, maintaining a healthy pregnancy, and then also then the more that we understand about epigenetics or the way that our environment influences our genes, you know, we're understanding now what we're doing now and in pregnancy and before pregnancy actually influences the health of that child as well. So, I mean, from a selfish point of view, like what parent doesn't want a child that, you know, is happy and healthy and can learn well and all that kind of stuff. And from a not selfish point of view, that's the life we want to give our potential baby. So some of the things that I'm seeing really kind of commonly, you know, the hormonal conditions, so things like polycystic ovarian syndrome, you know, sometimes, you know, I'm seeing a lot of hypothalamic amenorrhea, which is basically, you know, when women are over-exercising, high stress, lack of carbohydrates, under-eating and losing their periods. I'm seeing that a lot. Seeing issues when people are coming off the pill or what we call kind of post-pill syndrome, you know, been on the pill for years and years, works great for them, come off, get married, ready to have a baby, and MIA, no period for, you know, 6, 12, 18, 24 months. So, you know, it's shocking. Things like endometriosis, I guess we used to think that was a hormonal condition, and now we're starting to understand a little bit more about it being an immune inflammatory condition that hormones that affects your hormones. That's a huge one. And then I guess when we're looking at, I guess, sort of subfertility, there's underlying issues like women not absorbing folate correctly, you know, blood clotting disorders, autoimmune conditions, inflammation, insulin resistance, dietary issues, you know, and that's what I was saying before about it being subfertility. You know, I hate it being called infertility. I mean, infertility is when you know, your tubes are blocked, or, I mean, even then you can get around that these days, and or you don't have any sperm, you know, that's infertility. And I think what most of us are seeing is this subfertility. And when people work with me and they do conceive, and maybe it's been years of trying or years of failed IVF, like what was the thing that did it? And everybody wants that one thing. And look, absolutely, sometimes we discover this just underlying blood clotting issue. They need to go on blood thinners. You know, we work on diet and things, and that was easy. You know, that probably happens less than everything else. And it's usually a combination of factors. So it might be their thyroid's just under functioning a little bit. Their vitamin D levels are a little bit low. They're ovulating a little bit late. The sperm quality may not be fantastic. And none of those things may be big enough to cause them to not fall pregnant in and of themselves. But when we start to add these things up, we sort of get this, what's the straw that broke the camel's back kind of issue. So, I'm big on pathology testing. When I see couples or women in that first appointment, after that I send them away for really kind of comprehensive pathology. So it's not like, I wonder what's going on. It feels a bit like whatever.
Right.
It's very kind of like black and white as to what we can see and what we're doing. And there's so much when we're looking at, diet and exercise, because there's so much information out there, but like, what do we do with it? Like, there's women don't know how to find this information. It's difficult to access. Not everybody has a naturopath or a nutritionist or a, fertility health person, practitioner in whatever space they're working in. So, I think these sort of things like podcasts and stuff people can really listen to, but sometimes people don't even know how to find these things. So it's not that, women don't know we guess we don't know what to do, but, because we're not, I guess educated in that way. We talk about periods. You're going to bleed, you're going to not bleed, not bleed. That's it. Bye. Go to high school.
Right.
Yeah.
I always say I want to go back to like 7th grade and teach a period class and teach women about their bodies at that young age, because we just don't get that.
No. And I have this conversation a lot when I'm talking about cervical mucus changes, with women who might be 30 or 40 and are just learning about this for the first time. Like, it's not discharge. We're all having the same pattern of cervical mucus being secreted at the same time through the month. And women are like, why didn't we learn that in school? And my answer to that, totally my opinion, nothing factual, is you didn't really want to hear it then. Let's be real. So what my sort of take on it, I guess, is that as our generation of women know, learn and understand, we can then pass that beautiful kind of like wisdom on to our girls at an age appropriate time. So I think just starting with the periods, like if someone had talked to me about cervical mucus at the begining of high school, I'd be like,
right.
Like and somebody else maybe was more mature than me. But, I think that becomes our really beautiful job as this kind of community of women, whether we're mothers or aunties or godmothers or best friends or whatever it is, that when those girls are at that age appropriate, they're interested, they're learning, maybe it's 13, maybe it's 16, maybe it's 12, that they're understanding about that. I think that we can choose when that age appropriate time is for that particular daughter.
For sure. And I'm
hopefully the next generation know a bit more.
For sure. And I love teaching about cervical mucus, about BBT tracking, about just listening and watching your body's natural fertile signs. And I'm so surprised how many people don't know this. This is so important. So let's dive into that a little bit. Can you just kind of go through some, not to get too graphic, but just a little bit about what are we looking for? Like, what is our most fertile time going to look like?
Love it. Okay. All right. So cervical mucus. All right. So you're thinking it's discharge. It's not discharge, but it is, released by the body. Now it comes down from the cervix to the mouth of the vagina. So if you're wanting to check your cervical mucus, do it a little bit later in the day when you have been upright. If you've been trying to conceive, it's going to be very difficult for you to be able to tell the difference between residual semen and cervical mucus the next morning. You can get good enough at it to do that, but hey, let's just start with the basics. So say, for example, at some point in the afternoon, maybe 2 or 3 o'clock, great time. So there's 2 ways of checking. One, which is what I call the method, which is like wonder what it feels like, but there's no touch involved and very little sight. That method is not that great, believe it or not. So I would be going for the touch method. Feels a little bit weird at first, and then you get used to it. So basically you want to, before you do a wee, wash your hands, run 2 fingers around the mouth of the vagina and go, what does that feel like? Okay. Now that feels a bit weird at first. You'll get over it. It's your body. So when you've just finished your period, you don't need to check where you've got your period. You'll have just a bit of a dry, sticky feeling, and it's what I call sticky nothingy. I'm very scientific. Now, sticky nothingy is an infertile type of mucus, and it feels a little bit like, when you've been talking for a while, your mouth is a little bit dry, you got that sort of tacky feeling. If you pop your finger inside your mouth, it's that same feeling. It's not totally dry. It's not wet. It's just a bit nothingy. So that's infertile mucus. After that comes one that looks like a white moisturizer cream. Now, most women are like, oh, no, I've seen that one before. I've got that one. So it's a little bit thicker. It's a bit wide. It's a bit pasty. There doesn't need to be heaps of these things. You just need to be able to kind of identify, like the touching inside your mouth, a very small amount of something. So some people have heaps, some people have little, and all those are fine. So that white, thick moisturizer cream one forms a plug at the head of the cervix. Sperm can't swim through there and it's the wrong pH. So you're most likely not going to fall pregnant when you've got that white, thick moisturizer cream. The real trick comes between when that one stops and the next one comes in, which is a thin, clear type of mucus. And the best way to explain that is if you have a glass of water and you've swallowed it, and then you run your finger inside your mouth. You're like, okay, like there's a slippery, watery feel, but it's not buckets of anything. It's just a slight slippery, clear feeling. And that's pretty much potentially fertile mucus. And that's if you're trying to conceive, you'd be starting your every second day of conception attempts. If you're trying not to conceive, say stay away or use an alternative method, right? So these things work for both angles. So if you are trying to conceive, and you're in your 20s or 30s or, even early 40s, you still have time ahead of you when you want to not conceive. And if you're somebody who has come off the pill and had problems and all that sort of stuff, and you're like, gosh, you're probably not thinking this now, but maybe you should. What am I going to use for contraception after this? I'm 32. It took me 3 years to get my period back from being on the pill. There's going to be a lot of time in your life you don't want to conceive. So learning this sort of stuff is good for conception, which is when most people learn it, but it's also really good for contraception because you just flip the when you want to have sex and not want to have sex around a little bit. So after you've got that thin, clear stuff, some women will start to notice that goes for a couple of days, a stretchy egg whitey mucus. And a lot of women are like, oh no, I don't see that, Belinda. I'm not ovulating. I'm like, you probably are. You just missed it. You weed it out. And a lot of the time I'll say, do you ever wipe when you do a wee and you're like, oh, it's a bit slippery, I need more toilet paper? And nearly everyone's like, yes. If they're like, no, I'm like, yeah, no, neither, no. And pretty much that when you're at work and it's a bit slippery, wee's not slippery, right? Like wee doesn't need 2 bits of toilet paper. That was pretty much ovulation mucus that you were busy and you didn't realize that that's what happened. So, it's not that you're looking for this stretchy stuff to be coming out all the time or the one time you happen to check on the toilet. You have to kind of check daily, but also just being aware of, oh, actually, while I was at work, I ran out of that meeting. I went, that was actually a bit slippery. I did, you probably ovulation mucus. Yep. So that's your peak ovulation symptom, and you're probably ovulating in the next sort of 12 or 24 hours. And then it kind of comes back down the way that it came. Bit thin, back to thick and white, back to sticky nothingy, and then your period comes again. Whenever you check something, obviously, like, we're not textbooks. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can have had a little bit of thin and clear and then a little bit of thick and white and back to thin and clear. It's all good. Like your individual, we're just giving you an idea about what it should kind of look like, but that doesn't mean it's going to be exactly the same for everybody. So give yourself a couple of months of grace to learn and understand about your body. Like your friend might need 6 hours sleep, you need 9 hours sleep, or, you can eat, whatever you want, never put on weight, and somebody else, puts on weight from eating like a sandwich. So, we want to sort of go, oh, this is what it sort of should look like or often looks like, and then you're an individual in that too. So please don't be worried if you're not noticing those exact symptoms in that exact order.
I love that. What a wonderful description of cervical mucus. That was amazing. I love it. Because I talk to my women about this all the time, and a lot of them say they don't see it. And then when I start telling them what to look for, then they're like, oh yeah, I do see it.
Yeah. Yes.
So I love
the
that.
amount thing, I think people think there's going to be a lot more than what there is,
For sure. Yes.
And a lot of girls, you notice that that sort of puberty time, 12, 13, you go from like super clean child undies to a bit of that white thick stuff. And that's basically your estrogen levels rising. So women who've been having the pill and had their hormones suppressed after the pill, or that hypothalamic amenorrhea, will often be quite dry like you were as a child. And then, as your estrogen levels start to improve, it's one of the things that I'm looking for when I'm working with women to try to get their periods back. Like, they're like, oh, I'm starting to get a little bit of that thin. I had a couple of days of that. I'm like, great. Like, that's your estrogen levels increasing. And a lot of girls at like 13 are like, why have I got this stuff in my knickers? Quick, stick them straight into the washing machine and bypass the washing basket in case mum sees, she's not a woman. She's never been through it.
Right.
And that's estrogen rising. So I think it is really empowering to know. I mean, look, not everybody wants to know. Probably people that listening to this do want to know, so that's good. That you're understanding what's kind of happening.
Mm-hmm. And I find it's a really easy way to track your fertile window, because I have a lot of clients they'll get hung up on their OPK, and I'm like, you can't just follow that, because that's just your LH going up, and you need to look for the cervical mucus. So I'm so glad that you're explaining that. And so can we dive into that a little bit? Where does the OPK testing fall into this?
Yes, yeah. So your OPK testing, so that's your ovulation predictor kits, where you just wheel on a stick like a pregnancy test, and it kind of comes up. So the more basic ones are the LH tests that just come up with the lines on the stick, and you've got to try to see, was it dark or was it not, whatever. So your LH is going to be surging as you're coming in, or rising as you're coming into that sort of thin, clear mucus. So usually after you finish the thick and white, that time I said you're potentially fertile, it's usually increasing there a few days before ovulation, and you may get a peak just before ovulation, before it drops back down. A lot of women in Australia, I don't know, you guys in the States probably have better stuff, because I don't know, lots more people, is we've got a brand called Clear Blue that I don't work for them.
We had that.
So a lot of women use that because it's measuring estrogen and LH, so it tends to be a little bit more user friendly, I guess. So you get the flashing smiley as the LH is rising, and then at actual ovulation you get like a solid smiley. They're a lot more expensive, so if you've got really irregular cycles and you need to be using them for like multiple days on end because you don't have any idea when you're ovulating in a regular cycle, they're not so good. But I often get people to put against the temperature charting. I don't do endlessly because I find it's very stressful. It makes every day about fertility, and everybody gets caught up on like, I had one little high and low, and I'm like, don't worry about that. You probably just had a bad sleep or whatever. So they're good to get a couple of them to see where their temperatures are lying and where the different hormones are kicking in. But it's great to do that, the OPK testing and the cervical mucus all together, because what most of our women find is after a couple of months they get it, the cervical mucus is telling them what the other information gave them anyway, and then they're able to just use that, which, because it's predictive, I guess the basal body temperature tells you, oh, you ovulated yesterday, hopefully you had sex.
Right.
And whereas like the cervical mucus is like, oh, hang on, girl, like it looks like you're going to come up to ovulation soon. This is when you want to be trying. And because conception is all about that sex that you're having 3 to 5 days before you ovulate, and that's something I see a lot. I go exactly through what day do you start, what day, all this. And you can see people who are doing it right. They're like, oh gosh, I'm like wasting time telling her, exactly when. But the percentage of people who start trying when it's thick and white mucus, because that's the one they can see, or, they start trying at day 14 because that's what they've been told, and maybe they've got a 27-day cycle, they're ovulating day 13, but they've been told to try from day 14. So it's really important that you don't just assume. These are smart, happening couples and women. These are not, it's just they're probably amazing at like finance and, can't balance a spreadsheet. So don't be embarrassed about knowing and not knowing or whatever, but really don't always just assume that when you should be trying. Definitely speak to a practitioner or re-look into it. Please don't just believe your app, which is giving you an average of your last 3 cycles. We want to be able to kind of really know this is when we think you're ovulating and this is when we think you should be kind of trying. And look, and the evidence is, and the IVF doctors I work with is just have heaps of sex. Like, you're not a robot. Nobody knows exactly when you're going to ovulate. But I think as you and I know as practitioners, once you've been trying for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, it gets a little bit less fun and it starts to feel like a little bit of a chore. And so people really want to narrow down that fertile window. And I get it. I do. Like I'm tired. I work. You value sleep. It's like, but just make sure that you're not narrowing it down too much. Because I have people that use these sort of ovulation prediction methods, BBT, OPK, cervical mucus, and then go, no, I'm pretty sure I know what I'm ovulating, so I try this day and this day, and that's it. And unfortunately, we do need to actually, you could get pregnant from that 100%, but we know that you do need sort of multiple attempts. And if that middle time is getting very, very stressful, particularly often for the guy, to be honest, because nobody wants to feel like a sperm donor, right? Like everybody wants to be wanted and nobody wants to be needed. That's yucky. So I think often what I say to women is, if you are sort of trying a bit more around that mid-cycle, because you've been trying a while and it's stressful and whatever, try to, if you can, have sex at least once just after your period and just before your period's due, when you're not going to be falling pregnant in those times. For 2 reasons. One, it helps to keep the sperm turning over, keeps the DNA fragmentation down, the sperm fresh. 2, it's like helps your partner, husband, whoever, to know, if you're in a heterosexual relationship, obviously helps them to know that, like, oh, my wife, partner, girlfriend, whatever you are, actually wants to have sex with me at other times of the month. Maybe she still likes me. That's cool. And for you, you're like, oh, yeah, that's right. Remember how we used to do this? And it was kind of fun when there wasn't the pressure of, all this kind of other stuff. So it's really important, I think, to look holistically at that as well, because we've got so much information. I love the science and this is when you're ovulating. This is the perfect time. But we don't know. We don't know for that particular month. Maybe you did ovulate 2 days earlier, 2 days later. So try to be aware of that. I think that's really important.
I agree. And I always tell my clients and my listeners, have sex because you want to. You were once attracted to your husband or partner. Hopefully you still are. Let's just have sex for fun, because it is fun. and
it's hard, right? Because and I'm going to speak very generally. I know you're not allowed to do that anymore, but a lot of men, not every man, a lot of men use sex to connect, and a lot of women need to connect to then have sex, right? So, if we've been thinking about things, we're doing stuff, we're at work, we're worrying about fertility, we're listening to podcasts, whatever, great things, watching television on our phone, we get into bed and maybe the partner, or this could be vice versa for you, obviously, somebody wants to have sex, like, oh, that's their little bid for connection. But if you're still in your head, I'm so disconnected from my body at that time, it's the last thing I'm thinking of and I'd just rather go to sleep. So, think of it as in, I guess, yes, you did want to have sex with that person, but it was also because you were more connected to them. So it may be that you need to take a step back, after dinner, turn your phones off, go for a walk, play Scrabble, whatever, like have a game of cards, have a chat, watch a communal show that you both like without being on your phones at the same time, have a chat about it, laugh about it. I mean, everybody loves that there's no ad breaks anymore, but that's also when we chatted between the shows, right? Now it's just like, just be aware that it's not, people are like, oh, but my libido and I'm exhausted, I think take a step back, because when you're connected, if you're happy having sex on holidays when you can't see the washing and you didn't have to pay the bills and you're not on your phone as much, then it's not your libido that's the problem, it's your lifestyle. If you're someone that hates sex on holidays too, you probably don't have a great libido. Sorry. There are things you can do, but maybe, but for everybody else, which is most people are like, no, on holidays I'm fine. I'm like, then the issue is not your libido. The issue is that you haven't connected with your partner and switched off from everything else, came out of your head and into your body. And I talk through that. I feel like a sex therapist. I'm untrained. FYI, everybody, public service announcement, this is like just Dear Dolly Doctor from Belinda. But it's important, right? Because we're getting our patients, some of them are taking 6, 12 plus months to fall pregnant. So if they're going from sex twice a month to, what we're talking about multiple times and connection and things, I think we've got to have those tools behind us as well, rather than like, I should just be ready for it when I get into bed, despite having, been in my head all day long.
Right, for sure. I completely agree. And I always talk about that too. Let's connect to your partner. Let's go on a date. Let's hold hands and not expect sex. But
Yeah.
then again, let's have sex because it's fun and because we
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
to. And then it'll be more fun when we're actually trying to make that baby.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard, right? Because we're intellectualizing. And I say to people all the time, like, I'm giving you so much information and yet telling you to not make it clinical and to go with the flow.
Right.
And, you're like, but I'm trying to check cervical mucus and I'm trying to make sure I've eaten enough protein. I'm trying to connect to my, so to start with, it will be a little bit difficult, but, I think it's also just trying to be, this is really difficult to say, but like trying to be light with it. Like not trying to be light with the fact that you want a baby. That's serious. We get that. But like just trying to be light with like, you don't have to be perfect. You don't get more points or a pregnancy faster from being more and more, I don't think, more and more strict at something. There's exceptions to the rule, obviously, diabetic, PCOS, you're eating buckets of sugar, probably not going to help. But,
right.
As a general rule, like, yeah, go out on a date night. If you want to have a glass of wine, have a glass of wine, but don't drink, 3 nights a week and eat out 3 nights a week and never exercise. And, but I think what happens is that we give these recommendations and a lot of people like, I guess fertility is one of the first times that we're faced with there's things we can do to optimize and help and support, but we're not in control of the whole thing. And We're not used to that, right? We study hard for the exam, we get a good result. We work hard at work, we get a promotion. We're used to effort and reward. And with fertility, sometimes you can have done all the effort and you got to wait for your reward. It's not you ate perfectly and took your vitamins and did this and therefore you're going to be pregnant right now. Nobody wants to hear this, but somebody else is just eating McDonald's, never took a fertility vitamin and went, oh gosh, I'm pregnant. And That's great for them. We're happy for them, even though they trigger us a little bit. But, it's possible. So you don't get more points from doing it harder and better and stricter. What usually happens is you go more into your head, you disconnect a bit from your partner, you start to become the mum of the partner. Don't do this, don't have a beer, eat your vitamins, da-da-da. And, it sounds awful, but you shouldn't want to have sex with your mum, right? So sorry, that came out bad. Nobody, it's not a sexy thing. It's not a sexy thing. So I think it's hard, right? Because we're giving this information and we're like, but don't be a bit light with it, take it on so that, and I think I always use the word optimize. We're trying to really optimize your chances and improve the health of the baby and try to think beyond just the 2 lines on the stick of the pregnancy test, which is obviously really important in step 1, but on to then pregnancy maintenance and a healthy pregnancy too. So some of these changes are creating the lifestyle and home that you want to bring your children up in as well.
I love that. And I always say that as well. It's about optimizing your fertility and your health so that you can be healthy for the rest of your life with your baby.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I love it. Well, I could talk to you all day, but we do have to take a short break to hear a word from our sponsors, but we're going to come back. I want to dive into your book, Healthy Hormones, and talk more practical tips on optimizing our fertility. So we'll be right back. Hey y'all, it's Coach Kayla here. I hope you are loving this episode as much as I am. We will be back in just a minute, but first, a word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Hormone P.U.Z.Z.L.E Society, a women's health hub for fertility, hormones, and the business of coaching. Whether you're struggling to get pregnant with pesky hormone symptoms or you're working to build a career in the fertility and women's health space, we have you covered. Visit our website at www.coachkayla.com to learn more on how we can help you. Text the keyword fertility to 615-257-8855 for your free fertility meal plan. Welcome back, Belinda. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
For sure. So now let's give our listeners some practical tips. What would be 3 things that we could do today to optimize our fertility?
Yeah, great. Love practical tips. Okay, so start basic. Look at your diet and your lifestyle. Number 1, increase protein. Most women are protein deficient. And we know that optimal egg health requires good protein intake. We need, you're going to have to do the conversion for me. I've written it down somewhere. We work in grams and kilograms, right? So like you need at least 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight. Maybe I'll have to put it into the show notes or something, the US conversion. Yes. Most women are not getting enough, okay? No. So you need to be having protein at each meal and snack. That's where optimal egg quality comes from. We really want to reduce our sugar and starchy carbohydrates. Embryos do not like a high glucose environment, okay? They don't thrive in that. They don't like to implant in that. So we really want to drop those down. So if you were looking at your plate, you want to have your sort of starchy carbohydrates less than about 20 or 25%. Mm-hmm. So I tend to sort of say if you're looking at a plate, you want to have 50% should be salad or that was bad 50%. 50% should be salad or vegetables. About 30% should be your protein, meat, chicken, fish, eggs, nuts, seeds, lentils, hummus, falafel. Doesn't have to be meat all the time. And then if you want to have rice, pasta, quinoa, those sorts of things, less than 20 to 25% of the meal. So if you're having cereal and a sandwich and then, like risotto for dinner, it may not be bad, but it's a lot of what I call shut-up food. So I call those carby foods shut-up foods. They fill you up. They shut you up. Nutritionally, they're not doing much. So, it's not that they're bad and you can never have them. It's just all about bumping up the ratio of more salad and veggies and more protein. That would be number one. Like everybody needs to do that. Well, nearly everybody needs to do that a little bit better. Mm-hmm. The second thing would be move your body. Okay, so there's a lot of evidence around fertility and exercise and what we should and shouldn't kind of be doing. And the bulk of the research has come back to regular movement and exercise, but nothing too intense. So if you're having problems with fertility, drop the HIIT, drop the cardio, drop the F45, or at least drop the intensity and stick to moderate intensity, yoga, Pilates, walking, swimming, body weight stuff, slow weights, body balance, there's heaps of kind of things to do. And we want that to be less than 5 hours a week. Okay. So, more isn't always better. And we want to be able to sort of slow that down. So around about 30 minutes a day is where the best evidence kind of is, but definitely under 5 hours a week and moderate exercise. So what's moderate for me may not be moderate for you. If you're a marathon runner going for a 5K jog, I'm like, no, that's high intensity. 3 mile, whatever, 4 mile. I'm like, oh, that's high intensity. I can't breathe. And you're like, no, I'm just like literally jogging along slowly. So that for you probably is moderate exercise. So it's not a one size fits all approach, but certainly you want to start to think about exercise as movement and circulation rather than sweat and tears. Mm-hmm. So definitely want to be looking at that. The third thing would be, I guess, at home is looking at your home environment. So, a lot of us, and then the third tip I would say is to look at your home environment, okay? So we're surrounded by chemicals and toxins and things like that. And unfortunately, fortunately, so we know about it, but the research is coming out going, oh my gosh, eggs hate this, sperm hates this, our bodies hate this, cells hate this. And it's linked to not only fertility issues, hormonal conditions, and then on to things like cancers and stuff as well. And there's a huge body of research on this. So what I don't want you to do is to look at your house and go, oh my gosh, I can't live here anymore. It's crazy. But start with the simple things. So, when you finish some cleaning products, switch them out for the natural, go to your Whole Foods, look online, switch them out for the natural kind of products, not what we call the greenwashed products, which are like just the very commercial, like sensitive version or the green version, but look and do a little bit of research into some products that you can trust. There's a lot of websites and information about this. Perfumes are one of the worst things you can be using, so maybe start with that. It's very easy to stop using. And they're going to be in things like perfume, but also like scented candles and air fresheners and things that you spray around your car and in your home and things easy to take out. And interestingly, and you can switch them out for like beautiful essential oils and things. You don't have to smell gross. In the last 5 years, we're so lucky now because I feel like every 6 to 12 months, something else beautiful, luxury comes out that is 100% natural. You know, like 10 years ago, we all just smelled like patchouli oil and it was a bit like weird. Now we're like, oh my gosh, this is lovely. So there is lovely stuff. And there's an interesting fact. If you, when women are doing IVF, assisted reproduction, on the day of their embryo transfer, so that's the day that they put the egg and the sperm together and they're going to put it back inside your uterus and hope that becomes your baby. On that day, you're not allowed to wear perfume because perfume can kill embryos. All the staff and doctors in these IVF labs are also not wearing scented perfume. So when I speak to them, I'm like, but so women shouldn't then be wearing perfume at the other times, right? They're like, well, no, there's no evidence on that yet. And it's like, should we wait for it to come before we actually take charge? Or should we go, wow, if perfume kills embryos on this day, maybe when we spray a little bit on our bodies every day and it goes into our bloodstream, it's not great for embryos and or eggs and or sperm then. So, you know, we know that it affects embryos, guys, and we want embryos, right? Yes. So ditch the perfume. And I used to have this like beautiful one that I was like, okay, when I changed over initially, I'll just save this for like really special occasions, right? Fine. It now makes me so sick, like the smell, taking the lid off that beast of beautifulness, luxury thing, is I'm like, it's so toxic. If I get into an Uber and they've got one of those Christmas trees in there, I'm like, whoa, I'm not well. Like, I feel bad, you know. And while that doesn't, you know, people are like, oh, I don't want to not get used to smells and things. I mean, that's just you getting used to it. Like, if you go to Hong Kong, you're like, initially, you know, you're like, whoa, I can't see this pollution. And at some point, you're like, oh, today's not so bad. You know, but if you just come in from Nashville, you'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't breathe. So our bodies get used to things. It doesn't mean that it's causing more or less damage. It's actually causing the same damage. But we don't want to be used to things that are negatively affecting us, so we don't even know. So start to look at that. Personal care products, cleaning products, you know, plastic drink bottles, you know, just, but switch over slowly, because that beast can feel very overwhelming. So my 2 tips for that, I would say, to stop heating and cooling and drinking out of plastic. So no getting takeaway, it's hot in the plastic, put it in the fridge, have some the next morning, put it in the microwave. Switch to glass and stainless steel. Get yourself, invest in a really beautiful water bottle. Don't lose it, because it's probably going to be $30.
Right.
Just try to avoid the plastic single-use ones. You know, you don't want your future kids living in an environment full of plastic anyway, so it's win-win. And then get rid of the perfumes, because they're easy. The other stuff, you know, makeup, moisturizer, cleaning products, just change over when it finishes. You know, this packet of floor cleaners finished. I need another one. I'm going to look into that and get it then. And that way it's less overwhelming, more budget friendly. And this potential baby of yours is also going to be crawling on that floor. And you don't really want them licking up like poison just to be clean, right? Like the natural one's still clean, but it's okay for them to have a little bit of whatever it is, baking soda, this, that on there, going into their bodies too. So you're doing it for now, but you're also doing it for the future.
For sure. And you are so right about, natural things have gotten so much better. 10 years ago, they were awful. And I mean, I can't believe I just found a tanner that was self-tanner. And I was like, there's no way this is going to work. And it was wonderful.
Yeah. Or you'd be like scrubbing the bathroom, being like, no, this is fine. It works fine. Scrub, you know. You could have just used nothing. Whereas now it's like spray. Oh, it's better. Yeah. Nice. It's like gluten-free, right? Like that used to be nasty, and now we just have the most beautiful gluten-free breads, and, you know, you can buy gluten-free croissants, and not that they're healthy, but, you know, if you have to be gluten-free, the options are really, so you guys are in a good time to get healthy.
Yes.
We probably started a little bit before the trend, when we had to convince ourselves that the natural things were really lovely.
For sure.
Now they are lovely.
Yes. And I love too what you said about, because it can feel very overwhelming. That's what I hear a lot from people, is that like, I have to throw away everything. Like, how do I do this? But just as you run out of stuff, just replace it with something cleaner. And before you know it, you'll be 100% non-toxic, and it'll be a really easy transition.
Yeah. It's easy to get overwhelmed, but, you know, you've been using this stuff for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. So, you know, another 6 to 12 months, it's not, it's just that slow taking those things out of because it's the build-up effect of these things.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
So talk to me about your book, Healthy Hormones. What is that about, and what can we learn from reading it? Yay!
Healthy Hormones, is a book that I wrote. It's published in German, Spanish, and Russian. I just found out the other day, and English, obviously. And basically, it's a book that is designed to help people understand about their hormones. We're talking about all these things: cervical mucus, temperature charting, ovulation predictor kit. So understanding your cycle, what's happening in each stage of the cycle, understanding how to pinpoint ovulation. There's a section for trying to conceive, foods to have, all the information that you need with that, what you could be looking at in terms of tests and things if things haven't been going according to plan. I've got a shopping section in there to understand about how to read labels and what we're looking for. I go right into the fertility diet, which is all evidence-based and what we should be eating for optimal hormones. And again, puberty to sort of menopause. There's postmenopausal where it gets a little bit different. I partnered with a lovely, beautiful friend of mine, Ainsley Johnston, who's created 50 recipes based on all the nutrition tips. So they're all super hormone-friendly recipes. They're all gluten-free, sugar-free, mostly dairy-free, maybe a little bit of yogurt here and there, but really easy to make. And we've had really great feedback with those. So there's, fertility foods. I go all through the lifestyle stuff in terms of, diet, how to clean up your lifestyle slowly, what things to look for, what ingredients and things to avoid. So basically it's just like a little manual that you can use to really understand your health better. And you can pick it up at any point and open it up and learn stuff out of that. So it's not like you're going to be like reading it through like a textbook. It's very, very gifty looking, and it's set out so that you should be able to just open it up and have a little flick and learn a couple of things and then come back to it when you're ready.
I love that. And where can we get it?
Yeah, so you guys can just get it on Amazon. Is probably the easiest place to get it. And there's other online options as well, but Amazon seems to have everything.
Yes, perfect. I love it.
Yeah.
And where can we find you?
Yes, so you guys can find me on Instagram at BK Naturopathy or via my website, belindakirkpatrick.com.au. I've also got some courses on there, online courses on IVF support, fertility, general little short nutrition, and there's also a menopause one there as well. So we're covering a lot of ends of the spectrum there. I do online consults and obviously then face-to-face as well in my clinic in Sydney, Australia.
I love it. So we'll have all that linked to the show notes so everybody can find you and get your book. It sounds like an amazing resource.
Thank you.
Yes. So any final thoughts before we close out here today? Any words of encouragement or wisdom you want to leave us with?
Yeah, I think, look, don't lose hope, guys. It can feel really kind of consuming. And whether you've been trying 3 months, 3 years or longer, I think that feeling of being out of control is very difficult. So, find your team, know that we're all behind you. And, that listening to this, learning more, is going to be optimizing your chance of conceiving, your dream baby, but also setting you up for a really healthy, and hopefully then happy lifestyle as well. So, we're there with you every step of the way.
Yes, we are for sure. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Belinda. It's been so fun getting to talk to you, and thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Lovely to chat.
Thank you guys for listening to the Hormone P.U.Z.Z.L Podcast. Until next time, bye. Hey, hang on just 1 second before you go. I want to make sure that you are aware of all of the amazing free resources that I have for you on my website at CoachKayla.com. From a fertility meal plan, a cycle syncing quick start guide, a holistic healing cookbook, as well as master classes, blog posts by me and some amazing experts in the fields of fertility, hormones, and nutrition. So many wonderful resources that will help you on your journey. And I wish there had been something like this when I was going through my 2 years of infertility, but there just wasn't. And so that's why I decided to create all of this for you. So make sure that you go and check it out and you take advantage of this plethora of support that I have provided for you. And spoiler alert, these were some of the same tricks and the same foods that I used to get myself pregnant, not once, but twice, even after my doctors said that I couldn't. So I know that these things work. Make sure you take advantage of that. And I cannot wait for you to be my next success story. So thanks, love. See you soon. Thanks for tuning in today to the Hormone Puzzle Podcast. Check out the show notes for today's episode at CoachKayla.com. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and leave a review. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next week.